I want to kind of preface this with I've probably been to about 15 Shy Hack nights. I've talked. I've met people in this room, that I've been advised by people in this room as well. Both inspirationally and through conversations. People like Soren and Derek and Emily and Adam and Tom Schenk and all sorts of people that I've met in coming to this space. And I can't deny that we have been influenced in part in the design of this new degree program by our experience here at Shy Hack Night and just engagement with the civic technology community. And I think once I sort of explain kind of what we're looking to accomplish with our degree, that you'll kind of see how it's informed and how it works through and kind of where we're working with. But I guess starting off, I mentioned I'm the director of the Master Science in Civic Analytics program, a new degree program that is in the Department of Public Administration at the University of Illinois at Chicago. The program is formally coming online for fall 2020, but with consultation, you might be able to start courses in spring of 2020. You need to come talk to me about that. But going forward, kind of what I'm looking to do tonight is I recently wrote a white paper for our creditor called NASPAA that was helping to define competencies for public data science education. I'm using part of this paper kind of to inform this, so this isn't just me spending all this time just being an advertisement for the new program. There'll be a little bit of that in there, but to talk in part about the need for public sector data science, the rise, just a real brief intro to the rise of data science, how the government sphere kind of interacts with this, what has led to the need for this new kind of public data science paradigm in government and nonprofit organizations. And then I go sort of through our curriculum and kind of explain, how it's different from the ones for the programs that currently exist, and look at essentially the rationales for everything from course selection to what principles we teach. So I'm going to take you for a ride. So just real cursory introduction, key events. Some of you might know the literature. John Tukey, back in 1962, kind of foresaw this rise of applied statistics framework that just saw the rise of more data. Data was increasing in scale. He saw the sudden increase in technological capacity of computers, the increasing degree of quantification of academic disciplines and fields. He saw that this is something that differentiated itself from traditional applied statistics. For about 40 years or so, the fields of statistics and computer science kind of argued over who would be the intellectual home for data science, kind of from all the narratives I've seen, it was very much kind of the Looney Tunes, duck season, rabbit season kind of dynamic, just kind of pulling those kind of intellectual home across there. For a lot of this time, government existed in sort of an information management and information technology kind of paradigm, that a lot of the stuff that was being taught in degree programs was about technology procurement, use, data storage, handling, information management, human resources, and stuff like that. So in the public space, there was public policy analysis and analysis degrees, but where it intersected with technology, it was primarily on the infrastructure side. And I can tell you from having been an urban planner and working in government context that a lot of times there's a hard separation in the institutional structure of information technology from the actual public servants, is that you have people who are trained in computer science and IT who are the ones running the servers, and then you have separate agencies where you might have some people who are trained on GIS or technical skills, but not quite as much of an overlap, or certainly not kind of versed in the type of data analysis and stuff we're looking at. In the late 90s and early 2000s, you start to see the rise of new types of movements that are informed by information communications technology, e-government, different iterations of it, the rise of government websites. using it as a conduit for government information and then for government service delivery. Then the adoption of two-way connection or two-way communication, social media use, other things like that. So those are movements in public, that laid kind of part of the groundwork for public data science, but it was really in the mid-2000s with the open data movement that you saw the rise of, okay, let's take public information, let's put it in a machine-readable format, let's put it on servers and information clearinghouses and make it available for citizen groups and academics and industry and other organizations to use as a government accountability mechanism. And this is one of the things that really kind of helped spur this move towards public data science. So why do we need public sector data specialists? So I go kind of in part of this, some of the needs, but also later on I talk about some of the hard skills. We're an increasingly complex and digitized society that, as everything from ride sharing to remote sensing networks and the increasing digitization of society has created new regulatory problems, which means you need a new generation of public servants who are trained in different types of skills to deal with a distributed, decentralized digital society. So that's a big part of it. So new problems, new regulatory needs. You're seeing the rise of new agencies and positions, city information offices, city data teams, chief information officers, entire specialized agencies, 18F, US Digital Service, even specialized units within State Department, Department of Defense, transit agencies, all this data that is being collected and is not being analyzed, and there's a need for really creating a new structure of government information to be able to figure this all stuff out. Improved analytical capacity, I'll talk about this a little bit more in terms of the skills, but in terms of it means more methodological training. New ethical challenges. I know, Soren, you recently did a talk on protecting queer communities through data, and I think that was that's one of the examples of a really interesting sort of, being able to understand the implications of how technology can have a revenge effect, how it can separate, it can widen inequality, that just the assumption of the tools that are used, how can the tools be used in ways that are equitable, that can promote the public interest, versus using them in ways that widen inequality and end up causing harm rather than promoting the public interest. So new ethical challenges for the use of technology. We want to continue the open government public accountability paradigm, so continuing to have data that is being used in ways that can keep government accountable. And I put up this word here. I came and saw David Eads when he spoke from ProPublica. Data-driven journalism. This is something that intersects with journalism, intersects with the public sector in ways that have never been done before, and new methodologies and new types of accountability that are driven through data. And it was super interesting. And if I'm referring to the study about combining Chicago parking ticket data with bankruptcies, and many of you are familiar with that, but that's just a brilliant and kind of groundbreaking type of study that had never been done before. But you need to have that data, and you need to have people trained to do that. Optimizing and improving public services. Maybe you'd read probably about 2 weeks ago, the city of Boston estimated they saved $5 million last year by using an algorithm to improve transit routing of their public school bus system. So this idea that reducing waste and efficiency allows public resources to be redirected to better priorities. That's something in there. But also, culture of innovation in public service. Public service is known for being kind of slow to evolve, kind of stodgy, kind of frankly, a bit conservative. So this idea of a new culture, bringing that same type of startup culture that we find in the private sector and in software development, and bringing that to the public sector to solve public problems. Now, this is just a smattering of kind of the Chicago institutions that have operated in this space. Not all of them are, say, Chicago-based, but it's really interesting to see this kind of diverse assemblage of public agencies, nonprofits, for-profit entities that are engaging in corporate philanthropy, new models for operating in agencies and stuff like that. So these are at least just some of the institutions that we have engaged in working to do this program. So, this is about kind of last slide where we talk about skills and whatnot, and now then I kind of transition over to talking about programs and the growth of public data science as kind of an educational endeavor. So gaps in training, what are the things that have been identified by the literature that the public sector doesn't do particularly well, or the things that are the formal gaps? One, advanced statistics. A lot of people who are trained in public administration, public policy curriculums, and nonprofit studies kind of get introductory statistics courses, maybe top out at multiple regression or logistic regression. There's a need for a lot more complexity and a greater understanding of complexity and methods that can be used for data cleaning and screening and categorization and all these different operations. So the type of statistical knowledge that exists with, in the by and large average public servant or manager is not adequate to kind of work in this paradigm. Spatial methods. You might be surprised to learn that a lot of MPA and MPP programs have no requirement for geographic information systems or any sort of spatial methods. If you hang out here, Shy Hack Night long enough, you'll certainly see teams that are working on applications that have spatial elements, and it's an important part of the methodological toolbox that we feel that has frankly been ignored by a lot of public service programs. The data science and developer hard skills, that gets into that innovation, getting into those technical skills that simply aren't taught in public affairs curriculums that are being taught to people in business administration programs and computer science to solve problems in the private sector, but are not being taught to students in the public sector, which creates this kind of widening chasm between society and the public sector, where you generally have a more advanced private sector than you do the public sector. The rise of non-text data, voice, audio, visual, pictures and other things like that. How do you, we haven't taught people how to screen through this type of data. I'd read somewhere, CTA collects a couple gigs of security camera footage every second across its entire network. And there's no way you can simply, if you're trying to verify security or if you have some sort of problem with helping to reduce crime and stuff like that, it's like, how do you help automate some of that data collection and data analysis to be able to find these trends and stuff like that? So just new types of data. Advanced data visualization techniques. Maybe this has to do with web development. This might mean mobile development, mobile government applications, things that city services delivered through mobile applications. We don't really teach people how to do that. We tend to rely on vendors. Merging siloed data, agency data. This is a big one for public sector. We have a huge federal, state, even local infrastructures where data is held within agencies. Often just tremendous value can be derived by combining different types of data and then being able to analyze it, but it's siloed, it's housed across so many different agencies and units that it's not really operationally useful, or it's not being done in a sort of an optimal way of looking at the public interest. Information lifecycle management, how data is created, stored, disposed of, some of the security concerns about, particularly in the public sector, of protected health data, social security numbers, all sorts of things that we've seen data breaches in the private sector. We certainly don't want to be part of that in the public sector. Network analysis, as we move more towards kind of a network governance paradigm, it's important to know how networks operate. And finally, ethics. It's one of these key things that I'm going to keep on harping on, so I'll go on with it. So as for the educational landscape, data science degree trends, the Institute for Analytics at North Carolina State University has been tracking these on their website. That they list themselves as the first master's degree in data analytics. Was started in 2007 at NC State. Since that time, they've tracked, they now have listed 250 Master of Science in data analytics, data science, or business analytics. on their website, and the vast majority of those have been since 2013. Something like 230 of them, I believe, have been since 2013, so kind of a slow start and then a rapid growth. But yeah, data science has emerged as one of the fastest growing academic degree programs, one of the fastest growing kind of enrollments. And it's really interesting to kind of look at this, but when you look through that listing that they have on their website of the degree programs, you'll notice very few of them have a public sector application. They're almost all universally either context in specific data analytics, they're business analytics, or data science for public sector applications, or private sector applications. So it's in part of that context that I talk about kind of the development of public data science education. Again, NC State 2007, growing. The earliest programs that kind of established themselves in this space, a lot of this deals with how you define what is kind of the public sector. Some would argue that NYU is the first in 2012. They have kind of an urban informatics program. U Chicago, very well known here in the city, the computational analysis and public policy, came online in 2013. Georgetown University, the McCourt School of Public Policy, they have another early entrance into this space, I believe in 2014. Johns Hopkins Government Analytics degree program. So a lot of these, private institutions, very well-known policy schools, but not uniformly in policy schools. Some are in urban science programs and data centers. The interesting thing about the emergence of these degree programs is that essentially kind of what flavor they impart onto the curriculum by the nature of where they are housed and what their primary concentration is. So as part of this data science, white paper that I created for NASPAA, I created kind of a real loose typology of data science programs around some of their key identifying features, and that's kind of what I'm going to explain right now. Programs like UC and Carnegie Mellon have what I typify as computational public policy and information science. They're very much policy analysis centric. They're very heavy in economics. They're very heavy in computer science, formal coursework within computer science departments. It's a very different flavor than I'd say from many of the other programs. Government data science, these programs are typically from feeder schools that tend to graduate students who work in the federal service. Their programs are centered around big data analysis, particularly in sort of the federal sector. That's Georgetown and Johns Hopkins. Urban analytics and informatics. These are programs that are anchored in urban planning, urban affairs, urban policy. I think there's at least one, I think UPenn is in a design school. So urban planning, city design, urban infrastructure, landscape architecture, very much coursework that's anchored in urban planning and urban policy, smart cities. So very much that's the spin, that's the flavor that you get from it. Now, where the UIC's program, the Civic Analytics program, comes in, we take a bit of a different flavor. We're very much interested in governance, nonprofit affairs, social equity, civic advocacy. We're also the only program that is anchored within a public administration program and format. So the type of coursework you get in the core and the kind of things that we're going to teach are fundamentally different because we're not a public policy school. We did just start a Master of Public Policy. There are people who have traditionally taken a Master of Public Administration and have concentrated in public policy, but we are not a policy school, at least at this point. So yeah, it's a different flavor, and when I go through the curriculum, I think particularly for those of you who are already in programs or have evaluated some of the options, you're going to see we're a bit different in some regards. There's also some public affairs concentrations within data science programs where you take essentially a general a program that is context and specific, and then you take a little bit of public affairs coursework as a concentration, and then the flip. There are some emerging programs that are being established where you take a traditional MPA or MPP and you have a data, like say a 3 or 4 course data science concentration. Those are emerging even as we speak. There seems to be, some of those have just popped up in the last week or so as they've been formally approved. So I did want to, did I get these away? I did want to tell you just a little bit about us without harping on it, like to know kind of the flavor that we are imparting onto the data science conversation. In part, you got to know something a little bit about UIC, College of Urban Planning and Public Affairs. So we have been involved in public urban policy, governance, nonprofit affairs, local government management, all these sort of concentrations that you don't find in public policy schools, which I think through that typology I spoke of in the last slide, that we're a bit fundamentally different because of the flavor that we impart. We're very much anchored in what I like to call operational data science. We're less about, say, strategic public policy analysis and economics for decision making, but more anchored in sort of the day-to-day needs of agencies, nonprofits, and programs. So yeah, we're right off the blue line at UIC Halstead, the city's public national research university. We also house quite a few nationally renowned research centers and institutes, including a new network governance laboratory that just started this year, but Government's Finance Center, Institute, Center for Public Safety and Justice, Great Cities Institute, Urban Data Visualization Laboratory, Urban Transportation Center. All these are institutes and research centers that have been involved in this space in data science and this conversation for a while, and will only grow as this program comes online. So let's talk about the Master Science in Civic Analytics. So essentially, we just got this thing approved by the Illinois Board of Higher Education in August of 2019. So it's brand spanking new. As some of you, when I've come up here and done announcements and I've talked about the program for almost the last 2 years, we couldn't formally advertise it until it was approved by IBHE. So it is formally coming online. Again, there are opportunities to start as early as in spring 2020, but the main cohort is going to be in fall 2020. We call ourselves the first civic analytics program in the United States. We're certainly the first one that is anchored at a public national research university, and that focuses primarily on kind of a civic technology engagement advocacy framework that is rooted in PA. So there are of course UC and other programs that are public policy centric, but we are at a public institution, and the mission of our program is quite a bit different. And I think that'll come out when you look at this stuff. Integration of Chicago civic tech community. By design, we want to be engaged in spaces like this as part of our curriculum. We want to have breakout groups at Chi Hack Night. We want to have civic hackathons. We want to have service learning opportunities with nonprofits and government agencies. We want to have internships with public agencies that need specialists in data. So I think the degree to which we've had that perspective inform the design of our degree is quite a bit different, and I think you see it in our course selection and design. We are very much committed to public values, ethics, very much with social equity being here in Chicago, and governance. So even some of the courses that we have selected, they might have aspects of them that are covered in other curriculums, but some of the courses you see are just simply not taught in any other program that exists. So I will kind of talk about that. So I guess first off, we have a public service foundations core. Essentially the key designation or distinction between a general data analytics master science degree program and what we have proposed and passed is that we have a strong commitment to the public interest. We have public institutions, we have democratic constraints, we have public problems, some of which that people don't even agree what they are on. what the functional definition of them are. We have this interface of managing and running government programs with political institutions that want to check the authority of public servants. So much like an MBA is functionally different from an MPA because of the distinction between economic maximization and business processes and general principles of management, we are focusing on the public sector and the confines of public institutions and how that defines the mission, how that defines the ethics, how it defines the methodology, and those constraints. We feel that's a very important part of this equation, if you will. So, first class, foundations of public service. This is for people who come, and particularly this program is not, there are typical sort of feeder majors for public affairs, but public administration, public affairs is known for its interdisciplinarity. So if you are somebody who's coming from computer science, if you're coming from information sciences, that we're going to give you that background in the constraints of public service, public institutions, democratic accountability, governance, these other things that you're not going to find in the coursework of other programs. Not everything you're going to be doing in many aspects or in many contexts, people who graduate from this program, you're going to be doing some of that cool data science stuff, but you're probably going to be the most knowledgeable methodologically and certainly statistically than many of your supervisors, and you may have to assume some of the typical, the standard kind of program policy analysis or program evaluation functions that you find in public agencies. So we're trying to make sure that you have a basis in the fundamentals of some of these operational needs that are certainly part of the government agencies and nonprofits. Addressing public problems through data. That is a course that's built completely around the idea of studying innovation that has happened in the public sector, be it governmental, be it nonprofit, be it activism, be it civic engagement through technology, that it's a problems course. So if you're going to write code, if you're going to use statistical data to look at social equity in terms of transit availability or in terms of handicap accessibility or environmental protection, methodologically, how do you even construct those into operational definitions, and what kind of models could you even put in place to be able to solve some of these things? That I think it's going to be a very interesting course, and I'm looking forward to it very much. Data science, ethics, and information security. Our stakeholders that we engage for this, they said, you have to talk about ethics. You have to talk about ethics. You have to talk about ethics. In the public sector, there's too much opportunity to use data science in ways that widen inequality, that leave populations out, whether through missing data or through just the assumptions of algorithms or research design. So it's very much understanding those kind of constraints of methodology. And even so, the idea we can't quantify everything. What are the limitations of quantitative methodology? Are we trying to force everything through this lens that everything has to be quantified and everything has to be classified? Understanding the limitations, having an appreciation for mixed methods research and qualitative research where it's important. I think that's a very important idea of the things that we need to know. Excuse me. Moving on, next we have the data science core. These are a lot of the hard skills courses that we teach, that we give overview of civic technology, but we have a coding course. We plan to teach primarily in R. We find from the entities that we engage with and from the job, from the employment opportunities that are passed to us, to internships, to just kind of analyzing and reviewing that space, that in the public sector we tend to focus on R over Python. So that's part of our coding will be done, but then again, all of our research, our statistics courses are also going to be taught in R as well. So looking at those applications, analytics, knowing visualization, dashboards, just a host of whole things. And then some of the typical data management and information technology, these kind of practical skills about managing servers and databases and how we manage data and its use and its availability, regulatory requirements, compliance with federal laws, state laws, all those things like that, but very much focused on hard skills and learning the languages and techniques that you need to succeed in this space. Next, research methods. Our research methods core is our doctoral research method sequence that the type of statistical operations and complexity for data screening, for advanced analysis, and integrating. We find we have to have a very rigorous statistical methods core. For those of you who've operated in this space for a while, a lot of people call themselves data scientists who might know a little bit of coding and know a few skills, but until you can analyze that data, you can think about the way that coding schemes are constructed, you can think about the assumptions of the particular tools, until you're really fluent in statistical methods. And there's a lot of people who construct data science as basically being applied statistics. I agree with that to an extent, that yes, very much, that data science is rooted in applied statistics in addition to government technology and the hard skills and the coding and all that stuff like that. But yeah, that knowing a couple loose skills, a little bit of scraping or a little bit of coding is not particularly useful, or it is not useful unless you know how to interpret the data and be able to construct a valid study that is consistent. So we have those courses. We have partnered with our colleagues over in the Urban Planning and Policy Department at UIC to offer the geospatial component. So they are teaching that two-core sequence to teach you the fundamentals of GIS and spatial analysis and other forms of visualization. So yeah, we felt that is something that distinguishes our curriculum from many of the other entrants in this space as well. That they might have a GIS course as a elective, but we require a two-core sequence as part of our core curriculum. And I don't know how easy it is to see from any of the back there. Probably not at all. Great choice, but then again, it's hard to have these. There's a tremendous amount of electives that we've worked with our partners across campus, many departments, information decision sciences, urban planning and policy, geography, political science, that for those who want more advanced training on particular skills, or that they have particularly their own flavor or area of emphasis that they want to impart onto their experience, that we give you the ability to choose a number of courses that you can use to bulk up your skills to be able to essentially manage this or create the kind of portfolio that you want to for potential employers, or if you're orienting towards, say, government services consulting rather than being in an agency, or conversely, if you're more interested in policy analysis and you'd like to kind of move into that space, we give you the opportunity to specialize and choose quite a bit of elective coursework to choose your own path, if you will. Finally, we do want to make sure that you get out and you have practical experience. So some of you are going to come to us, you've already been kind of working in a data-driven space that we might be able to waive sort of an internship requirement because of your professional experience. We have capstones for people who want essentially to engage and work with, it's kind of informed by our experience with our MPA cohort. We have you out there in the community doing service learning, solving real-world problems, creating real-world applications, maybe even working in breakout groups. If you do so, that's something us and the leadership of Chi-Hack should talk about. But also a professional portfolio. You'll have a web-based portfolio that when you get done, you'll have functioning prototypes, and you'll have a portfolio that you can show to potential employers this is why you should hire me, these are the things I can do. Yeah, quite a bit of the things that we are trying to construct sort of a comprehensive program. I will add just one thing. Our classes award generally 4 credits. So if you're looking at programs and you're like, oh wow, you have to take 54 hours to get through this degree. We use 4 credit hour classes instead of 3. So it's the same generally 13 class sequence that you would find at other degree programs. So don't get thrown off by some of those things like that. I was told to kind of talk about that. I won't talk too much about applications and stuff like that, other than we are very inclusive, that you don't have to come from a computer or information sciences background, that you do have to be technologically savvy, you do have to be self-motivated and interested in, and sometimes teaching yourself particular skills and particular skills, platforms, languages that we can teach you quite a bit, but in the end, technology is a rapidly evolving space and we can't always hit every single possible thing. But yeah, finally, before I kind of conclude this talk and everything like that, I do have my information up here. I do manage our department's Twitter account, and I think I pointed out because I've tried to do a lot to show you what the intellectual life is within the Department of Public Administration and the College of Urban Planning and Public Affairs. So we post very frequently. You get to see students who are out there, they're winning awards, they're getting everything from academic conferences to internships to, we had a student who was a Microsoft Civic Technology Fellow in the spring, and I believe she's still there as well. So if you are at all interested in this program, I'd say one of those things that we invite you to do is to check out our Twitter account and kind of get an eye for what the intellectual life is, what kind of research faculty do, what kind of places that they're quoted in the media, what sort of impact their faculty have in research, what kind of what's the camaraderie, what's the is it a fun place to be, is it a place where you are learned, and is it a place that's very respected by the field? And the answer is yes to all those things, or at least I feel they are, but that's up to you. And with that, I will pass it over to you to ask questions. So thank you for your time and your attention.
So this looks like you've put together a really comprehensive program in a field that's rapidly evolving. I'm curious, how do you put together the curricula for something like this? You've talked about speaking with folks from across the city, like Tom and Soren and others, but are you're referencing other programs and then you're coordinating with professors, and can you give us a sense, briefly, of what that entails?
Sure. So we had a number of different strategies we used. One is like, yeah, we do map courses and competencies across other programs and stuff like that, because we think, to some respect, if you see that degree of triangulation and centering, that all programs believe that this needs to be part of the core curriculum. This component and this component, and the other things are kind of what I call related to the flavor component, that are more about their institutional context or mission. But yeah, we absolutely map these kind of core skills. We did a deep dive on the literature in government information and spaces. There's some known people who operate in these spaces that detail, all right, so what are these key, what are the things that are the deficiencies in public sector, both education and practice, not only in terms of degrees, but in professional training programs. Part of it was the consultation with some of those partners that I talked about, and they said, absolutely you need to have this. If you want to have a program that is informed by civic technology and civic activism and governance, then you absolutely need this. So I'd say it's kind of triangulation across a number of different methods, but to get this program approved by the Illinois Board of Higher Education, you have to submit a very substantial, I think my final application was about 67 pages, of essentially analysis that details why is this degree needed, what are the core elements of your curriculum, what does it serve, why are the components useful, and it's analyzed by the analyst at the Illinois Board of Higher Education. So we've done quite a deep dive in the last 2 years, and I think we're confident in that the model we've created is one that I think will be very useful, particularly in this space and within government agencies, nonprofits, and the government services kind of consultancy community.
Yeah, I'm just curious, what have been the most interesting or maybe robust KPIs for the results of the program that you've seen?
Can you give a little more context?
Oh, what have been the biggest results of the program that you all have seen in terms of social impact outside of the program?
I guess because we're still starting up, like we haven't technically begun as a program, so I can't say we've established sort of a track record on that, but I can say that within our college and with our existing programs that we have a long track record of being exceptionally well engaged throughout Chicago, that governance and yeah, I guess I'm coming from, I used to be a land engineering consultant, and KPIs meant something so much different to us that I'm trying to kind of box it in and stuff like that. Yeah, I think we're very much proud of our record. We're proud of our research. We're proud of our engagement throughout the city, that both in our faculty and in our students. We have a long track record of graduates that have gone on to do very good things and engaged in a lot of spaces. So I think in some respects, if you ask me this again in a year or 2 years, once we've established a kind of track record in this space, that I think that I can give you a little bit of a different answer. Thank you.
What are some of the real world applications that you guys are going to be able to do within the program outside of just the internship? Are there, data is really messy in the real world, and data actually is siloed in the real world. So how are you guys going to kind of get into the nitty gritty of real world applications?
Okay, so being a PA program, our curriculum is very much informed by quite a bit of faculty and practitioner experience in real world problems. I mentioned that we want to be engaged in the civic technology space and see the innovation happening. We integrate our coursework into this, but we will have civic technology fellows, that people who are active practitioners in this space who are going to be teaching some of the more specialized courses, because we want to make sure some of the people who are actually doing the real world things are the ones that are directly informing our approach to teaching and whatnot. So in part it's that service learning. It's in part creating the coursework to directly engage civic technology community in service learning. It's hiring people who are in the civic technology community to teach the courses and be sort of these knowledge centers. It's expanding our outreach and coordinating across different units, not only at our university, but other universities, and kind of creating sort of a shared space across here. So I think it's in part, we've really looked towards how are we going to anchor real world concerns and operational data science, as we called it, and be part of the community.
Do you envision, like here at Chicago Hack Night, people work on projects, and some of those projects go forward year after year, they keep developing. Do you envision incubating any projects within the school that students would learn by doing, but that you would continue new students working on those same projects year after year?
Certainly, that there's certainly opportunities for ongoing kind of initiatives that might have an educational component, but we have a tremendous, the number of research centers and institutes that we have in the college that, a lot of these things are interesting enough, they get funded, and we can provide sort of an institutional structure that we can have TAs that manage these things, or faculty, or university staff. So yeah, we definitely have a number of institutes and research centers that have ongoing, persistent programs that last year after year, and I definitely see that as being part of the kind of institutional structure that we want to create here.
I'm kind of curious, given what you said, like the program being focused on the sort of things that make the public sector unique. What sort of emphasis is there on qualitative analysis in addition to quantitative?
I would say that generally there's kind of a combination of it, that in the Solving Public Problems with Data course and the Ethics course that we plan on, as we've mapped our competencies across the curriculum, that there will be elements of exploring that, the considerations of the limitations of data and kind of quantification bias. With regards to the research methods courses, there's generally exposure to mixed methods classes. I'd say it's not something that is a huge part of our programs, and I'd say it's certainly, we have options at the university for those people who want to explore the qualitative space, but within data science we are very much sort of focused on, machine readable, a lot of quantifiable text data and stuff like that, but we do know the limitations of it. And as we look towards analyzing non-text or non-traditional types of data, I see the coursework emerging towards having perhaps more of a mixed methods approach to being able to explore these things like that. So in terms of, in our existing course structure, I believe in 541 and 542 that we hit elements of this, but as somebody, when I did my doctorate in public administration, I had to go outside the department for dedicated kind of qualitative studies, but yeah, it's certainly it's something that we've incorporated. I don't say it would be a major focus, but we certainly want to have a holistic look at the methodologies for studying public problems, and qualitative is a part of that as well. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to speak here at Chi-Hack Night. If you have any questions about the program, you want to approach me otherwise, I'm happy to give you a card, meet up with you, have some coffee, other things like that, but I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. Thank you.